Hi, my name is Brent Peterson. This is Vijay Golani. We're with Wagento, and we are going to talk today about Magento best practices for migrating your store. We're going to mainly cover going from Magento 1 to Magento 2, but we will field some questions and just briefly dive into what does it mean to migrate from another platform to Magento 2 as well. So as I said, my name is Brent Peterson. I'm most famous for doing selfies while running. This is Vijay Golani. We're both Magento Masters. Vijay is also an aspiring runner who's also going to start doing selfies soon. So our agenda today is we're going to go over some types of migrations. We're going to go over the tools that we're using in that migration. We're going to ask some questions, why should we migrate? We're going to go into the components that we're using for migrations, best practices, some of the steps, and then if we have time for questions, we're open for questions. So the types we're going to talk about is the standard Magento 1 to Magento 2 migration, and then we're also going to briefly go into just migrating from any platform to Magento. So WooCommerce, Shopify, whatever that platform is, anything can be migrated to Magento 2. So why are we going to migrate? So there's a myriad of reasons. There's tons of reasons why we want to migrate. The first one being that Magento 1 is going to be end of life in 2020. So that doesn't mean that your website's going to stop working in June of 2020. It's going to just be like Microsoft XP, like, okay, it works, but nobody's going to give us any more security fixes. It's not going to be developed. There's no features that are going to come out. There's less and less people going to use it. So the motivation to migrate to Magento 2 becomes greater and greater as time goes by. The feature set in Magento 2 is already greater than the feature set in Magento 1, so from that standpoint, it makes perfect sense to migrate. For other platforms, the same thing applies. The other platforms may be a SaaS-based solution. So in a SaaS-based solution, you don't have any access to your core code. You can't migrate, or you can't modify and change your core code. With Magento, we can take it apart, we can do whatever we want to the core code, and we have access to all that technology without any restrictions on what we need to do to it. We can also, that code is also portable, so we can choose to host it with Magento on their cloud, or we can choose to host it on our own servers, which we can't do with a lot of other solutions. So customization is one of the big things, and then finally there's a lot of extra packages that we can bring onto Magento that are part of the Magento 2 suite. Order management, business intelligence, the B2B suite are just a number of the features that are available for Magento 2 that you can't get with Magento 1 anymore. So just some basic overview of what it's like. So the data architecture has changed between Magento 1 and Magento 2. What this means is that we need to refactor, or we need to push all the code into new tables into Magento 1. Fortunately, Magento has given us a great tool, the data migration tool, that allows us to port all that data from Magento 1 into Magento 2. And it does cover almost all the data in your Magento 1 store, so it's going to cover your customers, orders, your products, promotions, store configuration, and best of all, it's also going to cover all the custom tables that you have in your old store. So that means you can migrate all your data from Magento 1 to Magento 2 without, well, there will be some manipulation that you'll need to do within the tool, but this means that you can take all your custom data, if you have custom data you've made with custom extensions, and you can move it to Magento 2 using the data migration tool. The tool then will allow you to do all this through the migration, and it does have a command line interface. There is the link to the tool, and then a little tip for each. We're going to have little tips on some of these slides, so while you're doing the migration, just make sure you turn off your cron jobs. All right, so we'll start with, that covers our data. We're going to talk a little bit about themes. So what has changed from Magento 1 to Magento 2? The theming is completely different. You can't take anything from Magento 2 except for the look, the feel of your old site, and you can use that to migrate to, or you can use that look and feel, but you can't directly transfer your old theme. So you're going to have to redo your theme. But this is a good opportunity to take some time to look at the way your old site did and give it a rebrand or do something new to it. You can't move it directly. It's a good time if your old theme is not responsive. We build a lot of our themes off the blank theme in Magento or off the Luma theme. So there are some built-in tools in Magento 2 that allow you to make your new theme better. And then finally, there is a PWA Studio that you've heard about that allows you to build a new progressive web app directly on top of Magento that will give you more of a app-like feel. So you can do push notifications now, you can do offline transactions, all kinds of things that you couldn't do before in Magento 1. The next thing we're going to go over a little bit is extensions. So again, just like themes, your extensions aren't natively migrating. They're not going to natively migrate to Magento 2. The good news is the marketplace is full of great extensions from quality developers that are making the same extension they built in Magento 1 for Magento 2. So then what that means is that hopefully most of their data that you have in your Magento 1 extension with that extension company will also work with Magento 2. There's also, I guess there's lots of technology partners building extensions that for new features for Magento 2 that allow you to take advantage of some of those things without doing custom development. Of course, if it doesn't exist, you can build it. So that's the great thing about Magento. We're not stuck in building a small app that sits outside of Magento like a SaaS platform. We can directly integrate the code into Magento and build whatever solution you want in that. And then finally, the Magento, the extensions themselves, since they're reused, are very cost effective. So a $99 extension could never be built for $99 if you're building that as a one-off thing. There's great value in getting that from any extension provider. And then the little tip, a great place to look for extensions that you know, and we just saw the quality of code that goes into the marketplace and the steps that they go through to ensure that that code is good. The marketplace, Magento Marketplace, is a great place to find extensions like that. All right, so then customizations, and what do I mean by customizations? Customizations could mean an extension that somebody built on Magento 1, but a lot of times if you are a developer, you'll see a folder in your root of your site that does something, and you're like, why is there a folder in the root that has a bunch of PHP code in it and open SQL calls? All those customizations should just not be moved over. Anything that we do in a custom format should be redone in Magento 2 as an extension. So this is a good time to look and see what has somebody done in your old site and redo it the right way in the new site. Code, well, I guess the first thing is your code's not going to be compatible. You're going to have to rewrite it. More good news, there is a code migration tool for Magento, but the tool is automated, so after the tool's done, you're still going to have to go through, do some cleanup work, test it, make sure everything is good before it's not just going to migrate it automatically, I guess what I'm trying to say. All right, so this is where Vijay is going to come in.
Yeah, so Brent has explained all the different kind of migration categories. Now we are going to talk about how practically we are going to do the analysis of those things. So the first thing is extension analysis. So you require to categorize, and so how we can move that. First of all, list out all the extensions installing your Magento 1, and then after divide those extensions into the category enabled, disabled, enabled but not in use. So based on that, you can focus that, okay, I have to focus only on the enabled extensions and not on the disabled or not in use. Once you have those extensions, you can divide again into the 4 different groups, like must needed, should have, can be done in the future, and those kind of groups. in that, based on the budget and timeline, you can focus on the must needed and should to have first, and based on the approval, you can move with the other categories also. After that, you can clean up the list with the unnecessary extensions or expired extensions, so you can clean up and make a final list that you want in the next Magento 2 version. Once you have those, you have to look into the marketplace Magento site that which are the extensions available, same as the Magento 1 you have in Magento 2. So you can look that on the marketplace store. After that, which are not available extension, like same extension, then you can find the alternate extension that can also fulfill the same requirement. So you can look for that and note down those extensions. But if it exists or not alternate available, then you have to make another list that these are the extensions I require to custom build by the development agency. So these are for the third-party extension. Then tip of this slide is make sure that when you choose the extensions, then multiple extensions, if you are using for the same page, like a one page, then there can be a conflict between them. So selection of the extension is important here.
And what Vijay is saying is the more planning you do up front before you start migration, you'll save twice as much time on the back end when you're doing that. So if you go through all the steps that he just described, you'll save a ton of time in the back by planning up front.
Yeah, and these are the steps practically used in the projects, and we have seen the output or correct performance also. So next thing is a custom development analysis. So what can be the analysis we can do for the custom modules we have developed? So you can list out all the custom modules which we have in a Magento 1 version, and then after divide again is same category which we have in a Magento, like in a previous slide, enabled, disabled, enabled but not in use. Here also you have time to clean up all the disabled and you are not using the extension that you can clean up. Once you have that, then here it is a good chance for the either redevelop as it is, or here client have the chance to add the more features. For example, in your Magento 1, you have the module, but some features are missing, but you need those again in the same module in a Magento 2, then it is a perfect chance. Slight tip for this is write requirement for each module. If you are moving from M1 to M2, then write it again so that all the information will be correctly written and developed by the developer correctly as per your requirement. Then the third analysis is a core code hack analysis. Like in a Magento 1, if they have not seen the benchmarks, that angry face image that did you edit core, then they edited core files. So what you can do this kind of analysis that compare your existing Magento 1 site with the source code downloaded from the magento.com, and then after you can check that which are the files edited by the Magento 1 developer. Then after you can make a list of those modified code and check that which are the functionality you need in a Magento 2 and which are already achieved in a Magento 2 latest version. So that way you have filtered list of the core code hack. Then after you can find the extension for the core code, whatever the core changes they have done in Magento 1, you can find that extension available in a Magento to achieve those things. Then go with that first. And the last thing, if it is not available, then you can again make a custom module to achieve those functionality. And if your certified developer will never modify code and insist them for the composer-based deployment so that never they can change Magento's core files.
And all these steps that Vijay is describing, what we go through with the client is we write the story. So we write a story about the requirement with the client and then get the client to agree on what is the outcome of that story. From there, then we can build out the new functionality in the actual extension.
Yeah. Then the fourth one is a non-programming, but the important part is the infrastructure analysis. So in that, Magento is using the latest server-related infrastructure. So make your infrastructure compatible. Like when you plan M1 to M2, make sure that which are the infrastructure information you need or setup you need for the Magento 2 store. So drop the support for PHP 5.56. Did you edit this slide? Did you edit core? So 6.x PHP version is not available. So 5.5 and 7.0 the support is dropped. And
I put it in as a joke.
Yeah, I have to add a hashtag Brent joke. Then so currently supported PHP version is 7.1.3 and 7.2.0. And regarding the caching and session, you can have the any Redis version 2.4 to 5.0. Latest version is recommended by Magento. Elasticsearch and RabbitMQ for asynchronous messaging. You can use the version based on the Magento version you are using. Then after, one more thing you have to, like whenever you select the Magento version where you want to migrate, make sure that that Magento version is compatible with which infrastructure. For example, if you're going with 2.3.0, then catalog search is not going to work and you need an Elasticsearch also configured, otherwise it can make problems. So those kind of things you have to list out in the advance so that during the migration process, it will not make any roadblock or anything. And if you are using like a slide tip is like, if you are using Magento Commerce version, then you can use the 3 master database also for the more performance. So this kind of migration infrastructure related analysis you can do prior to the actual migration.
And one tip on the tip, when you are doing your final migration, we always recommend migrating to the server you're going to use for live so you know what's really going to happen. It has happened in the case of like Elasticsearch that you get to your migration and your version is not correct, and in the middle of your migration you have to upgrade your Elastic. So we always recommend doing a migration as a dry run, which means we're just going to pretend we're doing it live. Do it once, do it again. I would say do it 5 times before you're actually going to go live, so you know everything's going to happen. You get that timing down, because there's nothing worse than your client calling you, asking you, how much longer is it going to take?
Yeah, and when you do the dry runs, always do with the load testing also. For example, like if you are doing a dry run on the dev server, then if you do not do the load testing, then you do not know that how exactly it will behave on the production server. So then after we are going to discuss about the different migration steps. So in a data migration, it comes with the 3 different modes: setting mode, data mode, and delta mode. In a setting mode, it will transfer first all Magento 1 settings to the Magento 2. So for that, the command is also written over there. Then after it is a data mode. In a data mode, it will transfer all your data like entity tables and standard Magento tables to the Magento 2. And after third one is a delta mode. In a delta mode, it will like whenever you're doing this migration in a dev environment, then you can have the incremental changes for the orders and customer related. Those you can migrate from the production side to your upgraded version using a delta mode.
It doesn't migrate your products and categories, the delta mode.
Yeah,
only customers and orders.
So these are the migration steps. So first of all, take a live DB clone. In case something went wrong, then you can use it. Then after, empty all the log tables, because we do not need all the log tables from Magento 1 to Magento 2, so you can empty all the log tables. The next step is set up the Magento 2 store, like the version which you are going to, like M1 to M2, you are migrating the select the version, and then I'm set up that version. Then after, stop all the admin activity in Magento 1, because we are going to start the data migration. So like we do not want to miss anything you are doing, any changes in the admin panel, and that can conflict again into the Magento 2 version. Stop Magento 1 and Magento 2 cron jobs for now, because then after it also start any activities and it will do the database level changes also. So stop all this activity. After that, install the data migration tool that we have discussed in the previous slides, to useful for the data migration, and start the data migration. So in the data migration, first we will do the setting migration, then after data migration, and then after delta migration if we require. Once you have done with the database migration, you can go with the code-based migration, where, as Brent said, like we have to rebuild the complete theme. So theme you can install or migrate. Then after all the third-party extension, which analysis we have listed out that which are the extensions, these are the extensions we need, that we have to transfer. And then after all the custom modules, which we have in analysis part, we have finalized, that also we can transfer. Once you have that, then after you have to copy manually media, SCL, and admin accounts, because those are the things will be not covered during any migration steps. So you have to do those things manually. Then after, put your Magento 1 site in a maintenance mode, because now you are moving like customer, planning to direct the customer from M1 to M2 store. Then after, put your M2 site in a production mode for the better performance and everything, like to make a live site perform very well. Then after, start the Magento 2 cron jobs now. This time you will start the Magento 2 cron jobs so that it will start all the database activities and consumer process and everything. Then after, flush Magento 2 cache standard steps and reindex the Magento 2. After that, change your DNS and load balancer, all the infrastructure related changes, and point your Magento 2 store so that instead of M1, now customer will see your Magento 2 site. And these are some useful links that you can use during the, useful for the migration process. So Magento migration guides available on the dev docs. Data migration tool is available. For the code migration, like one is available like from the Magento, and another is also the third-party tool also available. But again, those are just migrating some of the files. Again, you have to look into all the functionalities and require to create some more files. And then after, other useful resources also available, where Brent has created some migration videos, so you can find those videos also on Magento U site. Questions? Yeah.
My name is Erwin from Body Shop Indonesia. Is there any infrastructure guidance for Magento 2.3?
Yes,
because I didn't see this is only for 2, right? That you share for us. Because we already upgrade to 2.3 and we have a little bit problem with performance, and we don't have any document for the infrastructure guidance. And I also didn't see that varnish in your infrastructure. Is it a must or nice have having a varnish for the infrastructure for the Magento 2.3?
So for the first question, you can find those infrastructure related information on the devdocs.magento.com, but that can be not in a one page. Like there are a tree structure available and different information you can find at different pages. If you are migrating for the 2.3, then make sure that you have selected the 2.3 version at the top, in the top menu, because like if you select the 2.2, then you can see the different settings. So make sure that select the correct version and you can find there. And varnish, I think, is now must-have things for the cache related things. Yeah.
Okay, and also for the web setting itself, like FPM or something inside the Nginx setting, is there any guidance for that?
Yeah, there's guidance for both Apache and Nginx on the DevDoc site.
Also.
And there's templates built in for both Apache and Nginx.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
Anyone else? Hi, this is Manimaran. Actually, I'm a developer. So actually we migrated Magento from 1 to 2. Then later, after a few versions released, right, Magento side, we just upgraded from Magento 2.2.x to 2.3 point something. So that time we have the website and we have so many features with the custom extension, custom modules. So we don't know exactly, actually we overwrite so many core files also, overwrite into the custom extension. After 2.3.x versions, we don't know exactly what other files have been changed in the core files, 2.3 point something. So is there any like a core hack, core code hack, something like that? You talk about core code hack. Is it will helpful for these core files already overwritten, something like that. Because we don't know exactly these core files already updated by the Magento latest version. We don't know. So when we go to the website and look around what other features is working or not, that time it's not working. So we go and check with, compare with the core files and the overwritten files, then the core files is already changed. So is there any solution for this kind of issues?
Like that's the one solution, like you just compare the codes and that way you can find that these are the core files. And other thing, maybe not for the individual file, but you can always check the release notes, and in release notes you can see that how many modules are affected. That's that information will be available, so you can only focus on those core modules that Magento has. Like in each release they have changed those modules, so that way you can find those information.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm looking. But this is, we need to, every time we need to monitor these kind of things. I mean, patch update, latest update, everything, because we have a lot of custom extensions. So also we have, I'm talking about my side. We have a lot of, new feature development. So I think it's a little tough to often monitor with the code file is overwrite or something. It's a really tough one. So better need for good solution in maybe in the future, because this is really tough one. Because Magento only have the consent feature, but customer kind of view, we need to develop more and more features so we can achieve by the custom extensions. So we always need to be linked with the core files and the custom modules. That's the thing. So
just let me repeat. So you said your custom extension is conflicting when Magento's, you are upgrading the Magento, right? So I would recommend, like, whenever you build a custom extension, then make sure that first of all, like I'm going a little bit technical, like make sure you are using all the Magento's functions or classes with the @API tag, because those are the classes is not going to be changed, like because those are the final version of those classes. So if you are using not @API, it means that in the next version they can change those. Another thing is never use the @deprecated classes or functions. So this, if you use these two like things, then I don't think so it will make more conflict or anything.
thanks.
Anyone else?
Thank you.